Hi, and welcome to Quilting with Lori. My name is Lori Dickman, and today is part one of my beginning quilt class. And I'm so excited that you've joined me. If you are not familiar with this class, you'll want to first see the introduction to this class, which I posted on my YouTube channel a couple of weeks ago. I will have the link to that video in the description box below. Make sure you watch that. It will give you the intro on everything that we're going to be doing as you're learning to quilt in this beginning quilting class. There is a PDF in the description box below. Please make sure that you print that out. Whenever you print out PDFs, make sure you print them at 100%. Oftentimes, printers default to fit to page, and that will decrease the size of your templates, and you don't want that to happen. So I just make it a habit whenever I print a PDF, I always make sure that I print it at 100%. So make sure you do that. You'll need that PDF. And there is a template that is attached with that. So there's a PDF of the instructions, and there will be a PDF of the template. And we're actually not even going to worry about using it to cut out the template. We're going to cut strips from our fabric. But if you do like to use templates, you're welcome to trace this onto template plastic and literally cut that from your fabric. But we're going to do the simple way today. We're simply going to rotary cut some strips from our fabric in the size that we need, and that's what we're going to use to sew our block. One thing that I have done is I've put together a notebook for all of my instructions, and I've slipped the cover of the introduction PDF in here so that I have access to that. And I'm putting everything in these plastic sleeves. It will help to keep it protected. So that is what I'm doing for all of my sampler blocks. So I recommend that you try that. It will help you to keep everything organized and in one nice little notebook. So I'm going to do that. The first thing we're going to do here today is identify which fabrics we're going to use to make this rail fence block. There are 4 fabrics being used. It's a light blue. In the diagram, they're using a light blue, a light pink, a medium pink, and a dark pink. So what we're going to do is identify which fabrics you want to use for that light blue, light pink, medium pink, and dark pink. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to put your tabletop here in a minute so you can see exactly what fabrics I plan to use for this block. All right, I had shown you in the introductory video a variety of different fabric options that I was considering, and I think I'm just going to go with this set of fabrics. This is my focus fabric, which I really love. It's a beautiful fabric here, and it's got some light pinks, some medium pinks, a dark pink, and they're kind of in the beige tones and a dark kind of a charcoal. So these are some fabrics that I'm going to be using for this quilt, and for this block today, I'm going to be using this beige color here for the light blue. This is going to be the light pink, the medium pink, and the dark pink, and mine just happen to be pinks. You could be doing reds or greens or blues or whatever. It doesn't matter. Whatever you choose, maybe every single one of your blocks is going to be completely scrappy, and that will be fun as well. You might want to put it together with some black as your background in your sashing and so forth. It'll be a really fun one. But whatever you choose to use, let's go ahead and decide which 4 fabrics you're going to use for this block, and we are going to cut strips to create the rail fence. The first thing we need to do with each of those fabrics is get a nice straight edge and get it squared up on the edge here. And so I'm going to do that. I have taken my fabric, and I shared this with you in the introductory video also, but I've folded it. This is the fold here. This is the selve edge. And I have those even, and I am matching them up down here at the fold so they're even along there. And what I plan to do now is cut here. Now I can feel that this is a jagged cut here, so I need to square this up. So I'm going to take off about 3/4 of an inch there, just to get it perfectly squared. So that is perfectly straight now. And now I can actually cut a strip from this beige fabric. And the strips that we're going to cut are going to be 1 5/8 inches wide. So you're going to find a ruler and find the 1 5/8 inch mark. There is the 1/2 inch mark there, 1 1/2, and it's just one more tag, so it's 5/8. The little tiny marks there are 1/8 marks, and you just go over to the 5/8 inch. So I am going to line up my ruler on the edge of the fabric. I'm lining it up so that it's straight here, it's straight down here, and I've gone over 1 5/8 inches here, 1 5/8 inches there. I'm making sure that that's completely straight all the way up and down that line. And it is, and I shared with you last time how to hold your ruler with your fingers here and try and keep 1 or 2 fingers off the ruler and onto the flat surface if you can, just to kind of keep things steady. And make one cut. So here we go. We have one long, in this case, I have a 44-inch long, because that is the width of the fabric, and it's 1 5/8 inches wide. And then I'm going to subcut this into 5-inch segments. The template that I've supplied with you is 1 5/8 inches wide and 5 inches long, 1 5/8 by 5. And that's what we're going to create here. So I want to get rid of this selvage. You definitely don't want selvage in any part of our quilt. So I am removing that. Selvage is gone, and now I'm going to cut some 5-inch strips. I need 4 of these 5-inch strips from all 4 fabrics. And I'm using a ruler here that's actually 6 inches wide, so I'm going to lay it on the fabric. There's the 5-inch line. I'm making sure that all of this is even. I've cut 2 5-inch strips. Again, I'm laying that 5-inch line on the end there, making sure that's even. This is even. So now I have 4, because it's double folded here. So let me show you. There's 4 of my strips cut from the beige. My beige is done. I'm going to do the same thing with the light pink, with the medium pink, and with the dark pink. I'm going to make sure that I square up the edge, and the pieces that I have are just leftover chunks of fabric. As you can see, it's kind of a mess, but that's okay. I want to use this fabric. I love using remnants and scraps whenever I can. So I'm going to lay this on the tabletop here. I'm going to make sure that I get my selvages even, get the fold even, and I'm going to bring my ruler over here and square this up so this is all nice and even on the edge. I'll cut another 1 5/8 inch wide strip from this piece. I will subcut it so that I have 4 5-inch strips of this, and I'll do the same again with the medium pink and the dark pink. I'm going to do that, and I'll bring it all to the tabletop here for you in just a second. So I have my 4 fabrics cut, and these are the 5-inch long by 1 5/8 inch wide strips. And we could have actually sewn the long strips together, but I think for you starting out, it would be easier for you just to be sewing shorter strips. There's always more than one way to put together a block very often, and there are other ways to put this easy block together. But today I'm just going to share with you how to put these smaller strips together, and we're going to make units of them. So basically we are going to sew them together with their mates. So it's in my case, it's a beige going with a light pink. And then we have the medium pink Actually, I believe they put the dark in the center. Yes, it put the dark in the center, and then it put the medium on the outside. So that's what we'll do. We'll move that around here. Yes, okay. So we're going to actually sew these units together just like that. We're going to simply take 2 of the strips, put them right sides together, line them up, and we'll sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way down that, and then we'll continue sewing the strips until we have all 4 of them sewn together, and then we'll end up with 4 units of rails. It's a rail fence block is what this is called. So let me get my sewing machine set up for you, and I'll show you how this is done. So I double checked to make sure that I've laid these out properly, and if you look at your PDF, it does show that the lighter fabrics are on the outside and the medium and dark are on the inside. So I have laid out mine the way I'm going to sew them together. It's the beige, medium, dark, light, beige, medium, dark, light, beige, medium, dark, light, beige, medium, dark, light. And this beige is actually the background fabric in this case. So that's how I'm going to sew them together. I'm simply going to take this strip here. I'm going to lay it right sides together, line up the edge beautifully, and I'm going to bring it to my sewing machine and sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Let me bring the camera over there so you can see me do that. So again, I'm taking the beige and the medium and right sides together. I'm lining them up perfectly, bringing them to the machine and sewing a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I think what I'll do is kind of an assembly line. I'm now going to sew the dark to the pink and line those up and sew that. Then I'm going to cut them apart and open them up. I think I'm going to press everything toward one direction, so I'm going to press it all away from the beige here, and I'll show you this here in just a moment. Right now I'm just going to try and get this pressed. Okay, so I have the beige sewn to the medium, I have the dark sewn to the light. They're going to go together like that. So now that I have these 2 units together, I'm going to lay this together, line it up perfectly. And now I'm sewing the medium to the dark unit. Quarter of an inch seam allowance. Oops. All right. There is the unit. Beige is on one end, light pink is on the other, and the medium and the dark are on the center. What I'm going to do is finger press right now everything so that it's going away from the background black. So as you can see there, I've finger pressed it so that they're all facing this direction. Once I'm done sewing all 4 of these units together, I'm going to take it to the ironing board and I will press this all in one direction. So let me finish these other 4 units and I'll get it pressed and I'll bring it back to the tabletop so you can see it. I have the 4 units finished. They have been sewn. I've pressed everything in one direction. So all of the seam allowances are going to the right in this direction from the base. It's being pressed away from the beige. So as long as you press each of your units in the same direction, that will help it to lay much more nicely within the black. And now you're going to want to lay the black out in the 4 patches, but before you do that, make sure that you square up each of these squares to 5 inches square. I've got a little bit of excess here. I'm going to trim away here just a tiny little bit, but every single unit here needs to be 5 inches square. and I'm looking at the 5-inch area here within my ruler. But make sure each of the units is squared up to 5 inches, and then we're ready to put the block together. So I'm going to move these out of the way, and I'm going to stand over this so I can see straight down on the unit. There's just a little bit that had to come away. Now let's see what we have here. Not a whole lot is having to be trimmed away, but it's important that that's all removed, or else your blocks won't go together properly. Sorry, I just moved the camera accidentally. I apologize about that. All right, now I'm going to lay them back the way they are supposed to go together, and you'll see that they're oriented differently with the beige facing out this way, facing out this way, and facing out that direction. So what I'm going to do now is literally sew them together. I'm going to sew this unit to this one right here. I'm going to sew this unit to this one right here. I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance from here to here. So I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and do that, and I'll bring it right back to the tabletop. I've taken these units to my sewing machine. I placed this one on top of this, and I sewed a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I placed this one on top of this, and I continued. I didn't even break my thread. I just continued stitching. This is what you call chain stitching. So the top 2 and the bottom 2 are sewn together. Bring them back, and here they are. And what I'm going to do is finger press to the pale fabric here. I'm going to finger press, and this is going to go to the opposite side. So this seam allowance under here is facing this unit. The seam allowance under here is facing this unit. Now what I'm going to do is flip it like this, and I'm going to nest those seam allowances. As you can see right there, they are nesting together, and you can certainly use a pin if you need to. I like to pin on one side and then on the other side, and that keeps that unit nested there. And then what I'm going to do is start here and sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way across, removing the pin before you sew over it. So again, I've put this together. I've nested the seam allowance there. It's nested very nicely. It fits together well, and that's what you want. And then I'm going to take this over and sew the seam allowance. When I'm done, I'll bring it back to the tabletop. So the last long seam was this long seam here, where I had nested the seam allowances, and voila, there it is. There is the block. I've simply finger pressed it right now, but I am going to go to my iron, and I'm going to press this entire seam allowance to the right so that it's all facing that direction. So I will press that. I'm going to fix that. That kind of got curled up. I need to get that pressed neatly. So I'll do that. Once I have my pressing done, then I'm going to make sure that this is squared up to 9.5 inches. Each of the sampler blocks that we're making should measure 9.5 inches square. I happen to have a 9.5 inch OmniGrid ruler, which is fabulous for squaring up blocks, anything from 9.5 and smaller. And so what we can do with this is just line it up on our block and make sure that everything looks good. I think it's looking pretty good. There's an area or two where it might be a little shy, maybe a 1/16 of an inch shy, but I think overall this block is going to work beautifully. So it's been pressed. Let me bring this closer so you can see how I've pressed this. So this long seam allowance here was pressed this direction. I pressed all of the seam allowances within each unit away from the beige. And then that first seam allowance that was sewn is right here, and this long one was pressed this direction. So it's kind of pressed in a circle, if you will. And voila, the block is ready. I'm excited about it. I can't wait now till the next block that we'll be working on. And it will be, let's see, it will be on August 26th, and it will be the square in a square variation. So that is what we'll be working on the next time that we have this class. So you have from now until the 26th of August to get this block done. I hope to hear and see many comments from you in the comment section. If you do have any questions at all that you want to pose to me personally, just go out to my website, quiltingwithlori.com, and I do have a contact page there where you can email me directly with any questions that you might have. But I'm anxious to see the fabrics that you're using as well as the blocks that you're putting together. So I hope that for every part, and this is part 1, you will go out to my Facebook page, and I will have a link below in the description box of my Scrap Up Your Stash Facebook page where you can post pictures of the fabrics you're using and the blocks as you get them constructed. I think that will be fun. Thank you so much for joining me today as we have just finished part 1 of our beginning quilting class, the sampler quilt. And this is the rail fence block. Can't wait to see some of your blocks, and I look forward to seeing you back on August 26th for our next class. And if you're liking the content that I'm providing out on my YouTube channel, please don't forget to like and subscribe. That really does help my channel to get out to other viewers just like yourself. I really appreciate that so much. And so until next time, I look forward to seeing you all back, and I look forward to seeing comments and pictures out on my Facebook page of your quilt blocks that you're putting together. So until next time, happy quilting.